Hey everybody. So the other day I had the opportunity to build up one of these 3T Exploro gravel aero bikes for a buddy of mine, and the basically the kit comes with the frame fork, seat post, and some other bits and stuff to assemble it. And yeah, the fork there. One thing I really like about this more a little bit later is the routing of the cable. Rather than going inside the fork, it kind of has a little groove there where it goes on the outside, but again, I'll talk about this a little later. And then, the frame itself, all the cables are routed internally. These are basically all the bits and things it comes with. Got the through axle skewers there. It's got some kind of unique nuts, the headset top cap and compression plug. Comes with a couple other bits there for the seat post for different seat rails, and then two dropout derailleur hanger nuts, front derailleur hanger, and then three different caps for, I guess for mechanical Di2, and then for SRAM E-tap, which is pretty nice, gives it a nice clean look there. But anyway, I've got, this a few little tips that I kind of picked up along the way, and then got this is basically kind of the dimensions. Basically, it's a frame swap, so took all the dimensions firsthand. But first little tip is you got to watch this little wedge system there, the seat post binder. As far as my buddy that it was kind of a sponsorship deal. So one of the things that we had heard about is if you try to loosen up the wedge too far, you can actually split the frame there. So it's pretty tight little fit getting that seat post in, so resist the urge to, it would start to bind up if you get it too tight there, so just be aware of that. The cables, it comes with a series of little guide tubes there that go through, and the other little tip as far as there on the rear brake was to route the cable over the bottom bracket instead of under how they have it set there. And so initially I just ran a brake cable through the back and then over the bottom bracket, had the guide tube sitting there, and then ran it over. And once I tried to fish the housing over the wire, it didn't really work out well, so I'd say start off, just pull the whole thing out, route the wire or the cable from the back, whether hydraulic or mechanical, and then you can just lift up your cap and thread it through like that. I would say to route the cables definitely before you put the fork in would be a huge benefit. It comes with these little sound deadening foam tubes that you want to slide up over the housing. So I don't know, this was probably the best way I could find to do it as well, and it's just basically with everything off there. I have the housing's a little long, so once I get everything together, you can always trim off a little bit. So probably shoot a little, maybe WD-40 or some Windex in there inside the tube to kind of help it temporarily slide over. But basically just a matter of working this thing over. I don't know, I basically liked everything assembly wise about the bike. About the only thing I'm not crazy about is the 3Ts, the seat post, the seat post to seat rail interface, where it's basically there's two sets of little bits there that you slide in and out of each other that have teeth on them, and you got to kind of try to come up with the perfect angle. But the problem is that it's difficult to get it just right. Even though you can flip the pieces around and try all kinds of different combinations, it's always seems like it's a pretty big struggle to get that thing at the you don't really have the infinite adjustment. It's either a little too far nose up or a little too far nose down. But that's really about the only gripe I had with this one. But yeah, basically just getting those the tubes in there, and then I had ran a wire just through the front derailleur tube there, just so it wouldn't pull out. Pulled the cap up a little bit there, and so kind of just got that set back in place. And then got the wires and everything in. I didn't cover every little aspect like putting the fork in and all that. I've got several other videos. If it's nothing different from just a standard cartridge bearing fork and everything else. It's got a press fit 30 style bottom bracket, and it is the little bit wider section there. So press that bottom bracket in here in a minute, and the bars, we're putting a 3T arrow type bar, so kind of get to the routing on that. It was a little bit of a challenge, getting all the arrow mechanical brake cables and mechanical shifting cables, with front and rear derailleurs. It's one nice little feature of this bike is it does come with kind of a block off bolt there if you want to do a 1x system. But the bottom bracket, it is slightly wider than your typical 68mm width bottom bracket shell. So on this particular bike we just put the press fit 30. I think it's maybe I want to say 79, but maybe even slightly wider than that overall. I can't remember the actual dimensions, but basically we used a Wheels Manufacturing, the little 30mm to 24mm adapter blocks, and both sides were a little thinner. This bike, we switched it over from a felt gravel bike, so it was essentially the same dimensions width-wise and everything. So just managed to get the bottom bracket out of the old frame without damaging it, and then just used the little adapter blocks there to put a Shimano crank on it. And like again with the fork, the feature that I really like about it, with the cable not going internally, at the gravel bike, just doing general maintenance and things like that, it would be so much easier just to be able to snip those zip ties if you needed to drop the fork to clean your headset or whatever, clean out sometimes you get dirt and such in between the headset bearing and the frame, and causes noise and such. So I don't know, I'd say it's every bit as arrow as the internally routed, but way easier to work on. So that's one of those things where sometimes I think the engineers don't really necessarily work on the bikes, they just see the aero benefits and how easy it's going to be to manufacture the frame and then go with it, rather than actually having to see what it's like to assemble it or work on it or whatnot. But anyway, there's some little guide tubes that come with these aero bars, and basically the way I like to do it is just run an old cable through it, slide, kind of mock up the housing, maybe cut it a little longer than you think you're going to need. Of course with the rear brake and other one, it didn't, rear derailleur is pretty well preset, but this was kind of the routing I did. This is kind of an afterthought. This was after I built the bike, I rerouted the cables, so as I build the bike here, you'll see the way that I actually routed it. But kind of two options, same length cables. I just pulled the stem and flipped them under the bar instead of over, or under the stem instead of over. But, a couple options there. I'll let my buddy decide which way he wants to do them. But anyway, yeah, back to the routing of the bars, the cables through the bars. I like to just basically pull the cable through like so. Just the routing, I'll bend the wire over, and you can kind of push, pull, work them through there and use it as a guide. So yeah, that's basically it, and yeah, thanks for watching.